Hi, good evening. It is going for 11 p.m. on Thursday, January 8th here in Portland, Oregon, and I thought I would go on live for a little bit. It's been quite a day here. I'm happy to answer your questions about what's happening in Portland as best that I can. I'm very tired. It's been a super long day. I'm definitely going to be a little bit brain fried. It's been a really long day. I went to the vigil down at Portland City Hall this evening, and then have been home working since. But I thought, people have a lot of questions. I'm getting a lot of comments from folks who are interested in knowing what's actually happening here in Portland. The shooting that happened earlier today, where ICE agents shot what is sounding like a husband and wife, happened just a couple of minutes from my house here in East Portland, and I've been trying to keep on top of what's happening. Hi, I have a kid coming in. You need anything? Okay.
You on stream?
I am. I'm on live. Do you want to join? No?
What did you need?
Nothing.
Oh. Did Hal need help?
No, I think I got it taken care of. Sorry, my kid had a question. My college kids are up doing homework, so even though it's late, even though it's almost 11 o'clock here, we're all a little bit night owls. So what we know so far is that just off of 102nd Avenue in East Portland, there was an incident about 2:20 this afternoon where an ICE agent shot two people. It is being reported that they are a husband and wife. They then, I believe, fled the scene or somehow ended up about 40 blocks away, where they called for assistance and Portland police responded. Portland police were not involved in the initial incident, but they did administer medical aid, and then that couple was transferred to a hospital. One was shot in the arm, another in the chest. And last I heard, I think they were at Legacy Emmanuel Hospital. We don't have an update on their condition at all. I know there have been reports today, both at Legacy Emmanuel and at OHSU Hospital, of ICE presence at those facilities. It's worth reminding folks that Donald Trump, last year in January, one of his very first acts as president was to revoke a Biden-era policy that prevented ICE from conducting operations inside churches, schools, and hospitals. So ICE has been empowered to abduct people from those locations now for almost a year. In fact, at the rally I went to this evening at City Hall, one of the folks who spoke was a healthcare provider who talked about how important it is that we get ICE out of our hospitals. It has been a significant issue for healthcare workers. Oregon's nurses put out a letter earlier this year, last year, we're in 2026 now, in the end of 2025, decrying the situation where ICE has been obstructing patient care and making it untenable for nurses and other clinicians to provide care for immigrants in Oregon hospitals. And they have been pulling patients out, AMA. They have been denying immigrant patients access to testing and medication. Keep in mind, these immigrants are ending up in Oregon hospitals because ICE is injuring them in the first place. And so that's been a significant concern. They're also denying immigrants in hospitals that are technically in ICE custody. They've been denying them access to their family members. In fact, their family members are not getting an update on how they're doing at all. And also they're being denied access to their legal counsel. So ongoing issue. So not surprised to hear that ICE is at OHSU and Legacy today. Feel free for just joining now. I noticed several people have just come on. I'm too cold to knit. So it was really cold at the rally this evening. So my husband brought me a hot water bottle. I'm trying to warm up my hands a little bit. If you have questions about what's happening in Portland right now, I went to the rally hosted by Portland DSA at Portland City Hall. I have friends who went to the protests at the ICE facility on Macadam Avenue. That was a very different scene. There are reports that Portland police were at the ICE facility in riot gear and causing problems. Did you knit that hot water bottle cover? I did. Yeah, actually I did. I've knitted several of them. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. If you just go on Ravelry and search hot water bottle cozy, very easy pattern. I used Lamb's Pride worsted, which is 85% wool, 15% mohair, and it kind of felts while you're wearing it, or while the hot water bottle is wearing it, so it's really nice and felted and fuzzy. Multiple arrests were made down at the ICE facility. Is that what you said? Oh, do you know anything about the man in Vancouver who appeared to have his legs run over by ice? You mean, was that several weeks ago? I have not heard an update on how he's doing. I've not heard any updates. Yeah. I do not have a moderator tonight, so I want y'all to be really patient with me, as I'm obviously going to have to block trolls by myself. So, yeah. Thank you for all you've been doing. Voice of reason amidst the madness. Thank you. I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying. I do want to say at the rally at City Hall this evening, there were hundreds and hundreds of people. It was very chilly, it was drizzly, cold, and people showed up with less than an hour's notice. And it was just the beginning, right? Several members of Portland City Council were there speaking as well. Angelita Murillo, I don't know if y'all follow her on TikTok. She was there speaking. Two of my city councilors, Candace Avalos and Jamie Dunphy. Jamie's my neighbor. They were there speaking as well. And I appreciated what they had to say. I felt frustrated a little bit with the calls to get ICE out of Portland and with calls for us to organize locally, but it felt like I wanted there to be more. I wanted there to be more action items. I wanted to hear that local government would be willing to do more, but I understand it's like really, really early and my expectations probably don't meet reality. Our Attorney General, Dan Rayfield, earlier this evening said that there would be a full investigation. I don't know what that's going to look like, right? So we are hearing in Minnesota, we heard earlier this morning from the Minnesota AG that the FBI was no longer cooperating and no longer providing evidence to Minnesota investigators. So I don't know what that means for the investigation into Renee's murder in Minnesota and also into the shooting of two individuals here in Portland. I do know that within an hour of the story breaking in Portland that we were told FBI was coming in and taking over the investigation. So I have a horrible feeling they are about to drop all the false pretenses and just be openly violent. Well, yep. I mean, that's how authoritarian creep works, right? They're gonna keep escalating. They're going to continue to escalate until we stop them. Fascists don't stop on their own, right? They have to be stopped. They literally will not stop until they've taken away all of our rights. Until what they did to Renee, they can do to any of us at any time and get away with it, right? JD Vance said they were going to offer full immunity to the ICE agent who shot Renee in the face. That doesn't mean that those folks are immune to state and local prosecution, just so you know. I saw actually posted on TikTok the DA for Philly said that he would be prosecuting all ICE agents, any federal agent, any members of the military that committed crimes in Philly, he would be prosecuting them. So, I think it's going to get worse, right? There is the reality that it's not just going to magically all end and be better immediately. It's going to get worse, and I think we would do well to accept that truth. They're going to continue to try as hard as they can to clamp down in the run up to the midterms. They're desperate. So that's why they're taking these extreme measures. Yeah, I don't agree, right, that they're immune, right? Again, thanks for being patient. If I take a moment here on my own to deal with blocking trolls. I would also really encourage folks just not to engage with trolls, right? Someone asked, why was JD doing the speaking instead of Trump? Well, I mean, Trump can't stay awake in his own press conferences. Yeah. Oh, hi, Kat. Yeah, I don't have any mods. I don't actually know how to add a mod. My kid normally does it for me. I'm sorry that I'm still new and figuring out lives. Donald Trump falls asleep in press conferences, right? He is having more and more cognitive decline that's really, really apparent. And so they're trying to push JD more and more to the front. I think that's, yeah. Trump is not doing well health-wise. I agree. As someone who's concerned but on the sidelines, how can we prepare for things getting worse? Gosh, that's a really good question. Well, this is the first time that I have been involved in resisting fascism in my life. So I'm not exactly sure, other than just continue to build those community connections, right? I think that that's so key for us, both in terms of defending right where we are against what ICE is doing, also making sure that we feed each other, we care for each other. I think that that's crucially important. Community mutual aid, completely agree. Yeah. I think also just being really well aware of what your rights are. If there's know your rights trainings that you can take. A lot of what authoritarians try and do is claim that they have powers that they don't actually have. And if you don't know what your rights are, if you don't know where the line is, then they will just keep creeping. So you have to know your rights in order to defend them. Yeah. Yeah. Happy to answer other questions that folks have about Portland. Yeah. We're talking about living in Portland, Oregon right now, or just the state of the US in general. Thanks for giving me a second to block people. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, so the rally in Portland down at City Hall, I think was really constructive. There's going to be a number of other events in the coming days. And I think in terms of Portland city government, it's hard to know exactly what moves to make next, because when we all met for the rally, it was just, like an hour and a half after this story broke. And so people need time to be able to, to formulate plans, right? One of the things that I've been really frustrated with is authoritarians use a really predictable playbook. So why is it that some of these plans weren't already in place? They typically follow a known pattern. And while we can't anticipate every event that they're going to engage in, I do think that there are ways in which the resistance could be better prepared. I do know here in Oregon, our Attorney General, Dan Rayfield, had been planning since the day he got elected. He'd been planning since the day Trump got elected for what to do. January 1st, and then January 20th, they were ready last year to just roll everything out very, very quickly. And but do you even know your rights if ICE agents don't care about them? It doesn't, right? ICE agents don't know your rights. ICE agents don't know the law. They're not trained at all, right? Someone in the comments says the problem is that ICE is not trained. Well, even if they were trained, they have no intention of following the law. They are empowered to operate entirely outside of it by the Trump regime. So I don't think that that's what we're talking about, right? We're not going to convince them to be law abiding. They're entirely lawless. It's important for us to know our rights in terms of interacting with legitimate law enforcement, but also in terms of getting justice afterward. Yeah. What other questions? Do y'all have anything else about Portland specifically? I'm happy to talk about anything that people want. It's interesting to me. I have to say, to see the response from people in Portland so far, what the federal government wants is for us to be cowed into submission. They want us to be so afraid that we hand over our rights and give them up. At the rally this evening, I didn't see Portlanders being fearful. I saw them angry and determined. I also saw a commitment to nonviolence that was really heavily pushed, right? And so for me, it seems like the people who are showing up right now are those for whom what the regime is doing is having the opposite effect, right? It is causing people to be mobilized, activated, maybe for the first time in their lives, to defend their own liberty, right? I made a video, I'm going to post it tomorrow, talking about how I think a lot of us in the U.S., have been kind of passive participants in democracy, and I think too many of us have been somewhat complacent for a long period of time, thinking we can show up every 4 years and vote, or every 2 years and vote, and not understanding that democracy is not something that just happens to us, but that we are in charge of making democracy happen, and that's a process that we have to participate in fully. And I think that we have a chance now to accept that responsibility, what it means to be an American citizen and understand what our civic duty is. Yeah. It's not even that it's a spectator sport. Oh, hi in Newport. Are you in Newport, Oregon? Sorry. In Lincoln County. Hi. But the First Amendment, well, I mean, one of the things I see people talking about is how, like, they keep saying that what good is the Constitution? Like, the Constitution doesn't exist, your rights don't exist. And that's actually not true. When you say the Constitution doesn't exist, all you're doing is handing over your constitutional rights in advance. When you are lending credibility to the claims of the regime, like, of course they're going to try and trample on your constitutional rights. But when you hand over your constitutional rights, you give them up in advance, then it's not possible to defend them. So instead of saying like, oh, the Constitution's gone, or like, what Constitution anymore? It's like, no, actually we're outraged. Like, of course we still have a Constitution. Why is the federal government violating our constitutional rights? That's the position that I like to take up. Assembly, free speech, free press. Yeah. Don't comply in advance. Yeah. Like, I'm not handing anything over to Donald Trump. None of us should. It's not that we've lost the Constitution. It's that the tyrannical federal government is violating our constitutional rights. The Constitution still exists. So, yeah. I'm just going to block another Trumper. This is fun. Okay. Any other questions that y'all have, feel free and chuck them in. It's after 11 here, Portland time. I don't know if anybody else is not sleeping well lately. Legal observers are more important than ever. Please remain safe and record every ICE interaction. Yeah, here at the rally this evening, there were an awful lot of legal observers. So I think that people can do, you can do rapid response training, you can do micro-watch training. If you are able to do the full legal observer training, that is so necessary right now. Super, super necessary. Do you have updates on the Portland situation? Yeah. The last we heard was that the two individuals who were shot by ICE agents just a few minutes from my house, they are in the hospital. There's no update on their condition. One was shot in the arm and one was shot in the chest. So that's what we know so far. Talking about the Constitution is not a liberal thing. It's an American thing. Yeah. For me, I find it really fascinating in a horrifying way how conservatives in this country were the party of like the Constitution just a few years ago, like shirts with the Constitution, had the decals on the back of their truck, like the Constitution folks, the like the law and order folks, the don't tread on me folks, the give me liberty or give me death folks. How quickly they just like, right, flipped, just completely submitted, handed over all of their rights. I find that fascinating. Likewise, I find it fascinating the way that so many conservatives in this country for so long were really like understood that Russia is not our friend, Russia is not our ally, and then how quickly the minute Donald Trump, Russia's puppet, was like, oh, we're supporting them now. How quickly they flipped. All of this solidarity for Ukraine for a long period of time, and we understood that reality. How quickly conservatives just flipped like that. I find that fascinating. I don't understand that thinking at all. Yeah. Border Patrol is worse than ICE. They have no business being in U.S. cities. Border Patrol can operate within 100 miles of the U.S. border. So the comment that I got earlier today was, how is it that you had Border Patrol agents in the Portland metro area? The ocean counts as a border. So I think 90% of the U.S. population lives somewhere where Customs and Border Patrol can operate, unfortunately. Yeah. They're claiming that the two individuals that were shot here in Portland are Venezuelan. I'm not believing a single thing that comes out of the mouth of Kristi Noem. So yeah, I'm not going to speculate yet. No videos or names. There are some videos that were posted by people that I know in East Portland. They're on Instagram. I'll ask if I can reshare them maybe early tomorrow, of the scene when everything was unfolding. People happened to drive by, and there were ICE cars or unmarked federal vehicles, and so there's some of that, but no pictures of the victims, and no names have been released that I know of. Yeah, so I'll ask permission, see if I can reshare those. I've only seen the aftermath. Yeah, I don't see how ICE agents have a normal life after Trump is gone. This is something that I wonder about too, right? I don't understand what the process will look like for us to have justice and rebuild after this. I know that a lot of people talk about what happened after the Civil War and how similar that was. how so many people were denied justice and how we didn't really work through that period. We didn't get reconciliation, we didn't get justice and accountability, and what it will look like in the United States. I am worried about the post-Trump era and what Democrats will choose not to do, right? I don't see a number of corporate establishment Democrats being willing to prosecute their Republican colleagues if they violated the law. Like, I don't think the kind of sweeping reforms that we need many establishment Democrats are willing to go for right now. That's a concern for me. And I think we have to keep normalizing and talking about our expectation as 340 million Americans. What is our expectation for the post-Trump era? Because if we don't set that expectation, right, I agree, Dems are so weak. They sure fucking are. I don't know if you can swear on live, but yeah. Yeah, they're very weak. One of the things that I keep mentioning is, especially on Blue Sky, I get a lot of people asking me, well, how do you push the Democratic Party to the left? Because I see so many people saying, well, we should just have a third party. And we can't magically build one. We couldn't magically build one in time for the presidential election, and we can't build one in time for the midterms. Building a viable third party takes years and years and years. And we, like in some places, we have them, right? Zoran Mamdani just got elected. What's her name? Katie Wilson in Seattle. We have multiple members of Portland City Council who are DSA, right? There is growth for third party movements. Working Families Party is a party that I support. But we don't have any candidates on a national level, definitely not like senators and not president, that are viable third party candidates. And so for me, I feel like the utilitarian perspective is to try and push the party that we do have to the left. And I think that has to happen in really solidly blue districts, right? If you know your district is going to go blue no matter what, cool. Then in the primary, you push for the most progressive candidate possible. You push for the candidate who says, I'm willing to abolish ICE. I think we should abolish ICE. You push for the candidate who says that we are not going to fund Donald Trump's wars. You push for the candidate who says, I want universal health care. You push for the candidate who says, I want investigations and prosecutions in the post-Trump era. So, and you push for the candidate who says, I won't take APAC money. Yeah. I don't even need pushing left. Yeah. Are you going to run for office? The Lady Crow, thank you for that question. I get asked this a lot. No, I'm not going to run for office. I don't feel that that is something that is really within my skill set. I also think we have really competent people in the Portland metro area that are willing to run for office. We do not have a dearth of candidates. And did we even get a city council president today? The city council president did not speak at the DSA rally, but a number of other members of city council did. Yeah. I'm not running for office. I have a job with, a volunteer job with the city of Portland. That is an advocacy position for East Portland. And so that's what I'm going to be doing for the next few years. So I am involved, but I'm not running for elected office. Yeah. How did you find out about the rally? I don't know where to go to rally. Okay, that's a really good question. I'm in an awful lot of Signal chats, and the way that I found out about the rally in downtown Portland, because it was put together so quickly, was like people just texted me. And I also reached out to friends and was like, where are you going? I hear that there is a vigil here, and I hear that there's a vigil at Legacy Emmanuel. A bunch of my friends are going down to the ICE facility. That's not for me. I'm not going down there. I anticipate that that's going to be spicier than that's not within my risk threshold. So where else can I go? And friends notified me that the rally was happening. So I think normally we would try and share on social media, but because it was put together so quickly, it was very much word of mouth, which I think is why there was less turnout than we might have seen otherwise. Yeah. Indivisible Oregon shares rallies via socials, Blue Sky, Facebook. Thank you for that reminder. Indivisible Oregon is really good about resharing that. So is Indivisible Hillsborough as well. Yeah. If it is Vance versus Newsom in 2028, who wins? I don't want to talk about. Well, we know from polling that Gavin Newsom wins, but it's not fruitful, I think, in any way to have that conversation. It's so far out that we have to focus on the midterms. That's really, I think, where we need to be lending our energy. Saturday, 11 a.m. down at the waterfront, there will be a vigil. Thank you. Yes, I'm going to share the whatever the graphic is when it gets created. I'll share that on all my socials, but there will be 11 a.m. vigil. And I think we will get a lot bigger turnout when it's not after dark and rainy. I think when it's during the day, you get a much bigger turnout for events like rallies and vigils. Yeah. If you want to find out what rallies and vigils are happening, you can search PDX or Portland hashtags. That's a really good point. Yeah. Do you think protesting outside detentions is too dangerous considering Okay, so this is a really good question. Hang on, I need a drink really quickly. Hang on a sec. So I put out a video earlier, was it like yesterday? Time's not really real right now, but I put out a video late yesterday where I was saying that it's a good time to reassess your risk threshold. What is it that you are comfortable risking? And so I don't think it's good to say universally we should or should not protest outside detention facilities. I think that the level of risk is greater in those locations where you know that there are going to be 50 plus ICE agents and where you know that local police is probably going to have escalated behavior. At least that's true in Portland. At the ICE facility, they bring out the riot police, and Portland police are never our friends. But in particular at that location, I think you are undertaking significant risk if you show up there. And so it's not the place for everybody. Although I do think the people who are protesting down there are doing really, really good work. But there are other locations. ICE cannot legally detain U.S. citizens. Yeah, thank you, Hat. I pulled up, let's see, there was a piece of legislation, I don't know if I can find it right now. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal actually put out a piece of legislation last year in May. We see Democrats over and over putting forward these bills that Mike Johnson is never going to let them go anywhere. And I think it's more about raising awareness, but Democrats are not that good at getting people to read through a whole big bill that's not going to go anywhere. I think that that's probably a little bit of an antiquated strategy. But part of that bill was talking about how ICE doesn't have the legal authority to do anything with U.S. citizens, right? They can't detain you. They can't demand that you exit your vehicle. They're not police. And so what we're seeing right now is like just complete and utter lawlessness, complete disregard. They are acting as if they are the Gestapo, as if they are secret police and they can do whatever they want. ICE does not have legal authority over American citizens. I understand that like if they're claiming that they are being assaulted by American citizens, then they can arrest them, but they're not cops. They can't do whatever they want. Oh, I'm just gonna block this person right now. Yeah, sorry. Okay, thanks, y'all. So they're there to enforce immigration. Sorry, I'm a little rambly. It's so late, y'all. Actually filmed a video about this that I think I'm going to put out early tomorrow morning. When it comes to ICE, ICE is only 23 years old. We have not had DHS and ICE in this country for all that long, right? And not understanding the ways that ICE is legally allowed to operate and how we could just get rid of them. There's no reason that we can't abolish ICE. We're spending huge amounts of money. What is it? The 11th largest military in the world is ICE. And they're now being used to inflict a reign of terror in cities across this country. But ICE is not that old. We didn't have ICE for over 200 years of our history. And finding creators that are streaming at the ICE facility is a great way to support. Yes, a number of the folks that I follow stream from the ICE facility regularly, and you help support their work, their organizing down there. Yeah, for sure. So I think that when we're talking about what we want in the post-Trump era, being willing to openly discuss having candidates who are pro-abolishing ICE, and you know what? It's really sad when people get blocked and so then they log in on another account and then are butthurt that I blocked them. Okay. Yeah, so ICE doesn't have legal authority over American citizens, and we don't really need them to be doing any of this. We can decide as a country that this is not something that we want. It's not something that we have to just accept forever, right? And I think it's important to understand that. I also want to remind folks that bots are just out in full force, and bad actors and provocateurs are out in full force. And I think that's a good reminder to all of us how desperate the regime is, right? They're desperate to spread propaganda. I'm just reading. Yeah, the bots are wild lately. They're unhinged, especially on Facebook. I took a break from Facebook right after Trump got elected because Mark Zuckerberg is just like, right, like that with Donald Trump, and just gave a ton of money to his inauguration and some of his parties, etc. So I stopped using Facebook, and then I started using it again because I got feedback from a number of people who said that their older relatives were really active on there, that their more conservative relatives were active on there, and that like if you want to reach those people, they're not on TikTok and they're not even really on Instagram. So I went back to using Facebook, and it is, if you want to experience dead internet theory, if you want to see how active all of the bad actors from not inside the United States are, they're all running propaganda pages on Facebook. It's just awful. And, you know, I think it's really important to remember that we are not immune to propaganda. Like, none of us are immune to being red pilled. And so I think people can go to these sites like Facebook or what have you and think, I'm just going to explore all of this. You are susceptible to that propaganda, and it's really important to be careful what you're consuming. It's like after Charlie Kirk was killed, there was a lot of Googling like Gripers and Nick Fuentes, and then people were suddenly absorbing that content and getting radicalized by it. Like, just being exposed to that propaganda, it works on you. The psychology works on everybody. Nobody is immune. So let's be careful. That's why I'm really careful on Facebook. I just block religiously, and I try and post and only look at pages that I follow. And even so, it's just like an inundation. Pages that you block will get unblocked, and then you'll just be fed like pure propaganda. Yeah. I think TikTok is actually the most independent. TikTok is a mess, but I think that it is one of the platforms that we can use, and we're working to reform a system we didn't create. I would love to see a creator-owned platform where we have an equitable share of the creator fund, right? Rather than the way that TikTok does it, where basically all creators, same thing on YouTube, are being exploited by the platform, where billionaires are making tons of money and we make very, very little. We aren't at a place yet where we have that platform, so we can daydream about that, but like, let's use the tools that we have at our disposal in the interim. Yeah. I've been following you for over a year now. I hope your content, thank you. That's really nice of you. Thank you. I'm doing the best I can. Not always doing great, but doing the best I can. I thought that there was one being developed. There is an alternative to TikTok that's being developed. It's called Skylight. It's run by the same folks who do Blue Sky. It's very clunky, and you can post videos up to 3 minutes long. It's very, very clunky, very rudimentary, but it is in development. Yeah. I think it has the same problem as Blue Sky, but just amplified. Blue Sky is like a little echo chamber. I find Blue Sky a very comforting, safe place, because you hear people with similar opinions, and you also have like really good access to folks because it's small, and so you have more real conversations. But it also means that I don't think you're reaching anybody outside of your own sphere very often, and it can create this kind of feedback loop where we're all reinforcing each other and we don't have a broader, more diverse set of opinions. But I do like it. I've not gotten Skylight to work for me. Yeah, it's very glitchy. I would love to see it level up a bunch. Yeah. Yeah. What did the INS, Immigration and Naturalization Service, do before DHS? So I am not actually an expert on American history or policy and government, so I'm not sure. Yeah. Speaking of Twitter, if all the liberals leave X, it becomes an echo chamber. Yeah, X is just like a Nazi hellscape. I don't use Twitter. I quit it the day Elon Musk bought it. So I don't use it. I understand why some people do. For me, that's just like a nope. Yeah. Yeah. But I understand we all have to make that decision for ourselves. There's no ability to interface with this system in an entirely ethical way. We all have to make compromises every day to live and function and advocate for what we know is right in a system that is entirely unjust, right? So, yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. No Twitter or Meta for me. Yeah. I do use Instagram and Facebook, but I donate all of my earnings on Facebook. I donate them to charity. That was my like compromise for me being able to go back to that platform. And I don't make very much on Facebook. If you have a public Facebook page and you have at least 10,000 followers, every time you post, you make money. That's why these big like I don't want to say inorganic, that's not the right word. These big kind of fabricated pages that often have 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 followers. they're just slop farming all kinds of right-wing propaganda, lots of bad AI images that draw especially older, more susceptible Facebook users in. They're all just about generating revenue. I think people may not realize you can earn, some of those big pages are probably earning $10,000, $20,000 a month off of Facebook, especially if they're posting reels to Facebook. Yeah. Huge amounts of money. Not to pivot too much, but this is a conversation I have with other social media creators a lot. It's like, I wish we had more transparency about what it's actually like, because I think people sometimes don't understand the amount of money that is just like sloshing around on social media, and how money immediately compromises everything that you do, right? Dark money, money behind the scenes, but also just like how much these platforms pay people and how incentivized people are to make content, just purely because they're trying to pay their bills or because there's just like a lot of bread. Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
Is my iPad in?
your iPad is in here. You gonna go draw?
Yeah.
Get done with homework?
Is my pencil in?
Your iPad, yes, your Apple Pencil is in here. Ta-da. Okay, bye. Okay. What do you think of the European right-wing anti-immigration sentiment? Okay, that's a good question. Again, I'm not an expert on like European policy, and I know it's not universal. My eldest kid who just came in here, she's very interested. She speaks German. She's very interested in German government. So we chat a little bit about Bundestag stuff here. But I think that we're seeing the rise of white supremacy and fascism around the world. So it's not surprising that it's happening here. It's happening in Europe as well. Pretty horrific stuff. Yeah. Yeah. It's not unique. It's a shared problem, right? One of the things that was mentioned at the rally this evening is how it's one struggle. American imperialism has created the crisis of Donald Trump invading Venezuela, but it also in the past created Pinochet in Chile, and it created so much instability in Central and South America. Like we did that in the Middle East, like we did that, not us alone, but you know, and then all of that instability and all of that, yeah, colonialism is alive and well, right? It all has like come back to our shores. What we're seeing here, an attack on immigrants, that's all imperialism, like come back to the US. And it's one shared struggle against white supremacy, right? One shared struggle against tyranny, right? Yeah. I was raised by a World War II veteran, and I feel like that is why I am how I am in many ways. I would love to hear a little elaboration on that if you're up for that. My grandpa fought in World War II, and he was on the Asian front, but he very much was that way. I was informed very much by his perspective about freedom and about how our liberties are worth fighting and dying for. And that I think was very formative for me as a small child, hearing about my grandpa. Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard for us who have loved ones who have given so much in what they thought was defending our freedom, to think about the ways that their sacrifices are being disrespected. And yeah, I think about my grandpa a lot lately. I don't know if anybody else is like that. Yeah. My grandfather wired rockets for NASA and missiles for the Air Force and the Army. My dad spent 30 years in the Air Force. Yeah. He was deployed with the United Nations in Croatia. And yeah, 30 years in the Air Force. I have a very conflicted relationship with the military because of that, right? Yeah. People talk about Nazis, but I think Pinochet is a more accurate analogy for Trump. I don't disagree with that. I think actually I think Chile is a really good example of how a country gets itself out from under an authoritarian, a brutal authoritarian, through an electoral process, through organizing nonviolent means. I find the history of Chile really, really fascinating. And I didn't learn it until I was an adult, right? That's not something that I learned. I didn't learn any South American history at all. And even so, I only really have read thoroughly about Chile. And specifically because of my interest in nonviolent organizing. Yeah. I think we would all do well in this country to have much more. Well, of course, it wouldn't serve the government, right, for us to learn about pro-democracy, anti-imperialist organizing, right, and for us to learn about like what our government did to install Pinochet in the first place. Yeah. The Pacific Northwest has a deep history, like the Puyallup Fairgrounds concentration camps. Yes. Yeah, actually, one of our city councilors spoke this evening. Sorry, I'm so tired. I'm going to forget her name. About how her grandparents were in Japanese internment camps in World War II. Yep, we have a long history of doing that to our own citizens, putting our own citizens in internment camps. I think we don't learn so much about South America because the U.S. comes off so badly. Yes. Yeah. Heather Cox Richardson brought up the fact that today was very lit up. Today had a seesaw effect. I would love to know exactly what you mean by that. I have not watched her video yet today. I've been too busy with Portland stuff to give it a look. It's in my queue to watch it. I do really appreciate hearing the perspective of historians, right? Both, I think, Heather, whose focus is on American history, and then I really like Tad Sturmer a lot lately, whose perspective is resistance history. Also, Ruth Ben-Ghiat, another important person whose content I really enjoy. Yeah. Why are you having a live so late? Go to bed and get some rest. I'm just like a little wound up after going to the rally in downtown Portland. I can't sleep, even though I've got like 3 hours of sleep. I heard a really interesting, I know I'm just jumping all over the place. I heard a really interesting podcast episode from the Daily Beast. There's this psychiatrist that they've been interviewing ongoing off and on about Donald Trump being a malignant narcissist. But one of the things he talked about was hypomania, how Donald Trump doesn't sleep at all, and how also Bill Clinton has hypomania and he doesn't really sleep at all either. And it's interesting to think about that. I'm very, very busy, but I need nine solid hours of sleep a night, or I get a little bit brain fried really quickly. And it's interesting to think about people who run their whole lives on 3-4 hours of sleep a night. Martha Stewart is one of those. She doesn't sleep either. Interesting personality types. Sorry for that tangent. Healthcare subsidies got extended. Okay, I have to read up on that. There has been good news today. Surprised to see you at 11:30 p.m. I can't sleep. So, there is good news today. So Avilo Airlines is no longer doing business with ICE. They announced today that they are no longer going to be doing deportation flights. And I think a lot of that is because there was a comprehensive 9-month-long boycott. Avilo lost contracts. They lost access to airports. They lost business because the people had a really organized pushback. And I want to say, like, I'm somebody who didn't think that, I think it was called Ground Avilo was the boycott move or the organizing move against them. I didn't think that was going to be successful because so much of Avilo's business was like not something that you or I would typically, like I would never fly Avilo Airlines, even though they flew out of the Hillsborough airport. I thought, well, this isn't something that's really accessible for a lot of American consumers. I didn't think it would be successful, but damn y'all, there were so many people invested in that it worked. The second piece of news today was that Spotify is not renewing their contract with ICE to do ICE recruitment ads. And I saw people being like, oh, well, they didn't cancel their contract, so that's not a win. It had nothing to do with the boycott. And I disagree because they didn't renew their contract. And it's like a shit ton of money. ICE is just like flinging our taxpayer money just like everywhere. And so for Spotify to be like, this is no longer something that we want to participate in, I think that's entirely because of the boycott. Comprehensive boycott, because they lost a lot of money from everybody canceling their Spotify premium. Yeah. Thank you. I'm really surprised that Portland isn't one massive rally right now. Just saw the facility. Okay. I understand that people are expecting there to be just like thousands and thousands of people in the streets in Portland. I think this happened so late in the day and it's dark here early, right? And a very quick turnaround. There have been multiple smaller rallies. There were some in East Portland. There were some at the hospital, Legacy Hospital. There was a rally in downtown Portland, and then people are at the ICE facility, and there will be more tomorrow and the next day. It's just that people need time to build that up, and I think it is happening very quickly. There were an awful lot of people, I think, for 90 minutes notice. There were a lot of people who showed up. In terms of the ICE facility, people who have not been, hey, there's things right now at ICE. Yes, there are people at ICE right now. A couple of my friends are down there right now. For people who have not been to the ICE facility in Portland, Oregon, it is very small and it's right next to the Tesla dealership. It's very small and it's in this like little narrow strip. There's like a spaghetti warehouse, spaghetti factory. Anyway, there's not very much room for a lot of people. And one of the things that community organizers have talked about extensively is that it's not really a viable space to hold large scale protests. It poses a great safety risk because it's down this little street, there's apartment complexes, there's the ICE building, which is very small, and you end up having this kind of bottleneck where people are shoved in there, right? There was that case earlier last year where ICE agents blocked an ambulance from leaving, from getting out and taking an injured protester to the hospital. It's just not a good setup for a large number of people. It's a very big safety risk. We want to be really smart in where we're organizing and gathering. So yeah. Is that the one Christy was standing on? Yes, that's a facility. The ICE building in Portland is very, very small. The really big detention facility is in Tacoma, and it's a fucking nightmare. It has a long list of human rights violations and really concerning conditions. The ICE facility in Portland was never meant to hold detainees for more than 12 hours. So yeah, it's where people are supposed to go for their immigration, right? Like I'm going through the asylum process and I'm going to the ICE building to do the next step in my like asylum paperwork. That's what that building was set up for. It's not meant to be a detention facility. Yeah. There was a protest at the ICE facility in Dallas today. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Does it really cost them $1 million each day? There's protests at facilities. Cost the regime or cost the Portland police? I'm not sure. I don't know how much it costs them. They have huge numbers of ICE at that facility, that little rinky-dink facility. It'll be like 50, 60 ICE agents just like come pouring out at the drop of a hat. Do I know what happened with the people who were shot? Yeah. The report is that it's a husband and wife. The regime is falsely claiming that they are Venezuelan gang members. No evidence of that. The fact that that's what the regime is saying makes me incredibly confident that they are not gang members. One was shot in the arm and the other was shot in the chest. We don't have an update on their medical condition. Black Bloc is doing something at City Hall too in Portland tonight. The rally earlier at City Hall was DSA. I don't actually really like Portland City Hall as a protest location either. It feels a little bit like fish in a barrel. There's those steps going down to the front of City Hall. I don't love it. I'm on the safety team for my Indivisible, and I cannot go to a protest now and not think about logistics. Where's our exit routes? Where are the places that we're supposed to gather? Like, where are the weak points? How is it that we keep each other safe at this event? So, yeah. We want to be strategic. My Indivisible chapter is really strategic about choosing locations for protests. We map out, we game out all of the kind of like, what if this goes sideways? What if there's a shooter? What if there's a car that tries to drive in? Like, where is it that we can push people to keep them safe? What does that look like? We game out all of that in advance. Our safety team, I think, not to brag, but I think our safety team is probably one of the best in the Pacific Northwest. Very, very well trained. The folks who run it are just like so comprehensive and thoughtful and have tons of training. I think it's important for us to prioritize the safety of people who show up to protests. Yeah. There's a barricade at the old elk statue. Are they trying to create an encampment? No, I think they're doing repairs on the statue. I don't think that has anything to do with protests. I saw there's a detour. You can't go through there right now. Yeah. I think that's just coincidental. I would love to be part of it. I'm in Beaverton. I know that there are protests in Beaverton. One of the Beaverton school board members was at the DSA rally this evening and talking about concerns about ICE in Beaverton and Hillsborough. Pretty significant attacks in that part of the city. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if y'all have. Okay, sorry. More questions coming in. It is by, that's from someone, it is by the, oh, you mean where Black Bloc is meeting right now. Thank you. I'm sorry. I misunderstood your comment. So the comment is from people on the ground. Black Bloc is forming an encampment by the elk statue. Okay. That's good. That's good to know. I hope people stay safe down there. Yeah. I've driven up 3 times from Medford for the Portland ICE protest. Thank you. There's so many good people who come in to protest at ICE. I think that people have different ways that they really want to get involved and get plugged in. I see people who will say, well, you're not legit if you're not protesting down at ICE. I think it takes a really special kind of person to undertake that risk. It's necessary work. I think it's really necessary work, but it is risky. It is risky work. So absolutely appreciate people who are willing to be down there. I feel like my role is like, I help buy the Stop the Bleed kits and like, DoorDash for kids down there and things like that. I do think, speaking of like safety team and also the ICE facility, I don't know if y'all are familiar with these Stop the Bleed kits. Considering what has happened in the last 2 days, it probably is good for your safety team to consider getting trained on how to use those, getting medics lined up for all of your protests. We have medics, we have safety team folks. We try to also have, I'm often on the de-escalation team, but we often try to have like actual counselors or members of the clergy that are there as well. Stop the Bleed kits, I think, when people were asking for those at protest locations in the Portland area 6-8 months ago, people were like, that's hyperbolic. It's not hyperbolic. It's important to have those on hand. Yeah, they're worth the $80. If you are like, what can I donate to? If there are people in your community who are protesting in high risk areas, consider like, if you have 80 spare bucks, buy one of those Stop the Bleed kits and donate it to your local medic team. Yeah. OHSU has Stop the Bleed trainings. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, if you are not already a first responder and you need people on your team who are, it's worth doing the training. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I'm reading questions and comments. Yeah, also kits to help people deal with pepper spray as well. And also gas mask filters for people who are down there. Really helpful to support folks in that way. Absolutely. Not everybody can be down there protesting, but we can support people who are. ICE is still trying in Newport. I know they're really trying. They don't want to give up. I think that the fact is that fascists have no, they have no alternate plan other than to just keep pushing the same agenda to try and keep pushing forward. So when we knock them back, that doesn't mean that they're going to give up immediately. They're going to keep coming, and we have to be really, really vigilant. It's exhausting, y'all. It's exhausting. It's hard to get into the Stop the Bleed training. Thank you for that feedback. That's good to know. I know that people have been frustrated that it can be hard to get into Migro Watch trainings too. The perk training, I had to wait a couple of weeks on a wait list till I got in. I think that to me, that can be frustrating, but it's also really encouraging. It says like tons of people want to get trained. Newport did get their helicopter back. Yes. Mutual aid is resistance. It absolutely is. One of the things that we heard from PERC, if you're not from Portland, that's the Portland Immigrant Rights Coalition, and they do Migro Watch first responder trainings. They also do legal observer trainings. One of the pieces of feedback that they gave is don't do those trainings, especially for rapid response teams, unless you intend on participating in them, unless you are actually willing to do it, because it creates a backlog where they're like having a meeting and they're training hundreds of people, and then like 20 actually sign up at the end to be on the team. Take the training, not as an academic exercise, but if you really want to do it. And there are other online Migro Watch Know Your Rights trainings that are maybe less involved if you are not planning on being on a school like Safety Brigade, or you're not planning on being on a first responder, rapid response team. Yeah. What do you think our weak points are? Democrats in Congress? I think that's our number one weak point. Is that other countries who've had to battle fascism have had elected officials who have been willing to form an actual opposition party. And we do not have democratic leadership that is willing to be an actual opposition against fascism. And that's making our job much, much harder. Yeah. I think another thing is that we have been crushed under late stage capitalism for so long that we lack so many of the social safety nets that allow people in other countries to protest more vigorously, right? And this is my it's not beef. This is my gripe with Europeans. We don't have universal health care. And a lot of states, you don't have access to Medicaid either. So if you protest, you get fired, you lose your health care, you're effed, right, in this country. It's much easier to protest if you have universal health care. So, and also, Republicans have spent decades eroding the power of unions in this country. And I think that is really significant. I think that a lot of people don't understand that in many states, the union is not allowed to go out on strike at all unless they are in the middle of contract negotiations. And it's illegal. The Republicans and the oligarchy, right? The billionaires, who benefits when workers have less power? It's corporations. So they've really diligently eroded those rights for decades. And so weakened unions, lack of universal health care, lack of opposition in Congress. I think those are probably our three biggest weaknesses right now. Oh, let's add a fourth, as long as we're listing them all. A fourth, I think, would be propaganda from corporate media, right? It's not just Fox News, it's also CNN, it's also CBS, ABC, right? The press has been eroded. The integrity of the press has been eroded for at least 15 years. So, yeah. Okay. Bummed that Merkley canceled his town hall in McMinnville tomorrow. Oh, I didn't see that he had. Is he going to be in Portland instead? Is that what he's doing? I'm looking it up right now. I like Jeff. Jeff is up for re-election for Senate. I think that Jeff is... I'm not enamored of any politician, but if I had to pick like one member of Congress who I thought had the most integrity, it would be Jeff Merkley. That man, he's a good egg. I don't think he always does exactly what I would like, and he's known for being like very kind and very compassionate. For me, he can be like a little slow, but like slow moving, but I've seen him pick up the pace throughout the last year. He was like tentative is maybe a better word. He's very progressive in his politics. He's been much more aggressive over the last 3-4 months, but initially I think he was kind of hesitant. Yeah. Yes, in Portland. Okay. Yeah, one of my friends was actually Jeff's pastor. And so like way before, she was like, he's legitimately like a very kind, honest man. And yeah, he cares a lot about Oregonians. So I'm just looking up Portland tomorrow. Okay, thank you for that. Wondering why you weren't upset about the ACA subsidies directly. Could you clarify what you mean? I am opposed to for-profit healthcare, so ACA subsidies do go to billionaires. Ultimately, they go to for-profit healthcare corporations overwhelmingly. It's a good time for us to have universal healthcare. I support healthcare for all here in Oregon. There's no reason we can't fund it for everybody, right? I have nonprofit healthcare. I have Kaiser. Works really well. There's no reason that healthcare has to be or should be motivated by profit at all. But unfortunately, that is the system that most Americans have at this point in time. We have to work within a system that is deeply flawed while we seek to reform it and do the best that we can. So thank you for that heads up about Jeff. I just found his post. It says, I'm postponing my town halls scheduled for Friday. That's Yamhill, Polk, and Marion counties. He will be in Portland following the shooting in East Portland. He'll share the details when the town hall is rescheduled. Yeah. Jesse Ventura. I don't know what that conspiracy theory is. Okay. Here at the end of this live, let me say something. Getting down to the end. I think it can be really tempting for us to engage in conspiratorial thinking. I am really tempted to right now, seeing what happened to Renee yesterday in Minnesota and then what happened in Portland today. It's hard to look at that and not think that this is intentional, right? It's hard to look at these incidents back to back and think anything other than the regime like came into Minneapolis and came into Portland with the intention of shooting people, of unaliving people. I don't know what I can say on live yet, so sorry. But I don't think that we have evidence to that fact, and I think it can make us really paranoid if we start to think that way. So it's hard for me, knowing what I know about fascist regimes and the way that they want to escalate, to not go that way in my thinking. And I'm trying really deliberately to not do that in videos, but I'm definitely having a hard time with that, thinking that like it has to be intentional. But that would open, I think, the floodgates to thinking that's just going to take us in all kinds of ways that are going to make our thoughts just like race, and we don't have any evidence of that fact. It doesn't really matter actually if they intentionally planned on shooting people, or if that just happened because ICE agents are out of control and incompetent and anxious and they can't control their emotions. Like it doesn't really matter. That's the whole thing about a kakistocracy, right? Is that the fact that you put incompetent, unqualified people in positions of power and you arm them means that these kinds of things are going to happen because of the way you've set things up, right? You don't have to actually intentionally plan to do that. It will happen by nature of the fact that you've put incompetent men who are like just full of racism and violence and they have no emotion regulation. You've put them in positions where you've told them we'll give you immunity and also we'll give you firearms. That's going to happen. It's a logical outcome. So I don't know that it's that useful to try and speculate about whether this was intentionally planned or not. Yeah. 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 Same with stochastic. Yes, I agree. Yeah. They're not trained. You can see that at the Portland facility. No impulse control. Yes, I agree, Tony. I don't know if anybody follows Kevin. I don't know if I can pull him up right now. Kevin is a friend of mine who posts a lot on TikTok. I think he might have an Instagram too. He is a journalist who covers the ICE facility like all of the time. And when I watch his footage, yes, Kevin Foster, thank you. When I watch his footage, it's really, really clear that like ICE agents are not trained. And also they have no intention of de-escalating. Like their goal is to escalate. They're there to provoke an incident. Yeah. And they're like very dysregulated. It's that combination of like, they want to provoke and also like they can't control their own emotions. They're like driven by anxiety. They're in situations where the stress level is so high that like highly trained law enforcement personnel in that position would already be taxed heavily, right? That would already require them to tap into all of their skills and training. These guys have no training, no emotion regulation. They don't know what they're doing, no experience. They've not run through these scenarios. They're just like, they're totally unqualified. You plunk them into like an incredibly incendiary situation where they don't know how to calm themselves down, much less other people. And then you give them all kinds of weapons. And like the kids down at ICE protesting get hurt a lot. They get hurt a lot. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. That's part of the cacistocracy. There's like, they recruited Oath Keepers and Proud Boys on purpose. That's on purpose. Yeah. Yeah. It's been documented how little to none training. Right. And also the fact that like they can't find, this is why I call ICE fail sons. They can only get the guys that like don't qualify for any other law enforcement positions. These are the guys who would not pass the battery of psychological testing. They can't pass the physical testing. They can't get a job doing any other kind of law enforcement. They had to lower the recruitment age and raise the recruitment age. They had to remove the education requirements because they can't get anybody. So like they're dumbing down isn't the right word, but they're reducing the caliber of the applicants because they can't get anybody to come work for them. Yeah, even though they're offering them a ton of money. So cosplay Marines, they really are. They really are. These are men who are living out their, anybody who's read Homestuck, my kids like to say flarping, fatal live action role playing. That's what these guys are doing. Yeah. A general lack of mental health and education in general. I agree. Yeah. Complete emotion dysregulation, right? You can't, one of the things that we talk about, on the safety team a lot is we do an awful lot of de-escalation training. We are taught how to bring down law enforcement agents. We are taught how to deregulate ourselves, agitators, counter-protesters. ICE doesn't have any of that training. And part of helping bring other people down is you have to be able to bring yourself down first, right? You have to be able to regulate your own emotions because you can't access the skills that you need to help de-escalate other people. And ICE is, it's very hard to deregulate ICE when their whole goal is to just inflame the situation. Yeah. Flarping is my new favorite word. Gosh, yeah. One of the best things about having 4 kids is like, they teach me an awful lot. I would never have like read Homestuck on my own, if it were not for my kids. I'm going to have to wrap this live up in just a couple of minutes because I am getting a low phone battery. So I've been on here for a really long time. Yeah. Thanks everybody for being on. This has been really good. I really appreciate y'all giving me a chance to take some time and let me decompress. It's been a really, really long day. It's been a really long day. We're going to have a lot more long days. And I think we've got to access the coping skills as best as we can, help each other. Oh, it was nice listening to you. Thank you. Thanks for letting me yap. Yeah. Also, like, thank you to everybody. If anybody watching this is at any of the protests in Portland today, thank you for coming. It was really encouraging to see hundreds and hundreds of other people at the rally at City Hall this evening. So many people who just like deeply, deeply care about what's happening. It can feel like everybody, especially if you're on social media, like it can feel like so many Americans are just filled with hate, and that it's a really dark time. And it for me is really good to get out and connect with other people in real life, in real life, who are deeply invested in solving these problems and caring for each other and leaning into our humanity, right? We want to show up for each other in this moment. And when you're online, I think you can just be overwhelmed with all of the bots and all of the trolls, and you can get this really skewed perception of what people are like. And when you show up in real life and you're just surrounded by all of these people who just earnestly want to do the right thing, they're ready to give of themselves and their resources and their time and take risks to protect their neighbors. Like, it's just so encouraging. So thank you to everybody who was there. Yeah, I do have a lot of kids. It does feel dark a lot. It does feel really dark, but they want you to think that it's hopeless. And it is a really difficult time. There's a lot of, frankly, evil, cruel people who are really empowered right now. And it can feel really overwhelming. I think it's, oh, here we go. I'm getting my warning that my live's going to expire in 5 minutes. Thanks. Okay. It can feel really overwhelming. And so we've got to remind each other that they're trying to warp our perception. They're trying to make us feel isolated and powerless and helpless. And they want you to believe that you're the only person that cares. They want you to believe that you're the only person who wants to do good. And so you might as well give up, because like everybody's fine with this, but that's not true, right? The second I go to an Indivisible meeting or a protest or like my local Ice Watch group, like the second I plug into those, I'm reminded that like there are just good people everywhere who want to do the right thing. So yeah, Portland is a great place. Yeah, I do love it here. Okay, I'm gonna get kicked off. So thank you y'all for being on with me. It's almost midnight. I hope you all take care of yourselves, and yeah, hang in there. It's gonna be a rough couple of weeks, I think, and I'll probably try and be back on live tomorrow if there's updates here in Portland. Thank you.